Hey everybody, so we're at the end of another week, made it through another one. I should be on my way home now, but I decided no, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to make another video and get this done today, because come Monday morning, I'm not going to want to update everybody. I'm not going to remember everything I wanted to tell everybody. So here we go. Gonna miss making my deposit at the bank tonight, and hopefully the tellers know to just go home without seeing me. Usually they cheer when they see me come in because I'm their last customer, but yeah, they'll figure it out, I'm sure. Anyway, so let's look at what we got done today. So we got some work done on the engine. I got the gear case together and painted. We got the balancer on, torqued down. The flywheel is in, torqued down. There's something I wanted to mention. No matter what sort of job you're doing, if you ever have the clutch off of a flywheel, I would recommend, just before you forget right away, go ahead and re-tap all of your holes that your clutch could possibly mount up to, because a lot of times what I've seen is you know, whether it be me or somebody working for me, it's not paying attention, and they go to start bolting the clutch up, and there's 12 bolts there, and bolt holes there, and there's 8 bolts that it takes to bolt a clutch up. And so if you don't put it back on the way it was before, or even if you got a new clutch and you had your flywheel turned, you know, if you're not paying attention, you try to run your bolts into holes that weren't used previously, those holes will be dirty with clutch dust. And I've had guys go so far as to snap bolts off, or like bottom them out in junk. And like, why won't this bolt tighten down? It's, well, because, you know, the threads are dirty and there's that much resistance, and you don't want to put a clutch in that's not fully bolted down, fully tightened. So anyway, in order to never have that issue, just our practices, every single time we're cleaning those threads so that we have the proper torque on our clutch. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. So yeah, even though I didn't have to, you know, we pulled everything out of this block and resealed it. You know, it's out of the truck, and we're doing everything we can to reseal everything we can on this. We bought the gasket kits, which are crazy expensive, so we want to use all the gaskets, all the seals, right? Let's see. I guess the other main thing I was going to tell you is, so we got to work on this firewall here. If you know much about Kenworths, you know that the HVAC system for the cab is lacking, kind of inferior. And the biggest complaint from the driver is that there's no air coming out of the vents. And you know, that's with a good system from Kenworth. You know, it's still got poor airflow out, but it gets worse and worse with age, because the HVAC box right here from the factory is all steel, and as long as that AC is working, you got moisture being created in that box, and it just rusts out, and you end up with huge holes on the cover of the box. And so you're not going to blow pressurized air through the evaporator or the heater core and actually make it out of the vents in the cab if you got holes venting it under the cab. And especially if you got a hot engine next to your AC system, yeah, you're just not going to have good cooling. So there's a couple of options out there for dealing with that. I guess there's a few. You could buy the junk that Kenworth produced in the first place and spend a ton of money for that, and just let it rust out again. That's a bad idea. Our Kenworth dealership here locally, they push a brand called Shoreline, and it looks like it's a good product and everything, but it's not what we use. We're always looking for the best deal for our customer, and in our experience, the best one out there is a company named Jemali. It's Jemali, but they got a few different options. But basically, for this truck, we bought the base package, which is a shell, a stainless steel shell that replaces the original box, but it comes with an upgraded blower motor and wheels. And so then you have to take the evaporator and heater core out of the old system and put it in the new. So that's what we did here. You know, roughly speaking, we're talking $500. Now, Shoreline has an option for that sort of thing too, but I believe it's more expensive. You can buy both Jemali and Shoreline fully loaded, but again, Jemali's cheaper. So what we did here to determine what we really wanted and felt like is worth paying for is, before anything, I disassembled what was here originally. And the Kenworths, you know, and probably others too, you know, I mean, AC systems in general, you don't know if everything's going to come apart or not. This one did not want to come apart. But I didn't want to spend an extra $500 of my customer's money if I didn't have to. And so I did everything I could to not have to buy the loaded box. And what that took is, so all 4 lines going into this expansion valve were seized up. And so my solution whenever that happens is I get my angle grinder and I cut this expansion valve into 4 pieces. Or if some fittings come out, you don't have to do that. But in this case, I had to cut it into quarters. And then after that expansion valve was in quarters, I could spin each quarter off of each line, and I was able to save everything. Didn't destroy anything but the expansion valve. And then after I spun the quarters of expansion valve off of the lines, I was able to free up the nuts on every component. So, you know, it is a little bit of labor, and it's not really fun work, but I saved my customer some decent money. I mean, in general, there's no good reason to replace a heater core or an expansion valve unless they're leaking, and these were not. And it's rare that they're leaking, you know, either one of them. So anyway, just things to think about when your Kenworth is needing its HVAC system addressed. One thing we did do is we did put a new freeze control switch in this box. It didn't come with it, but you know, it's enough work to get to. We wanted to go ahead and address that while we were there. Obviously, we got a new expansion valve. This system should be good to go. You know, we've flushed things while they're out and all that. But, you know, if you're ever in the situation where you're replacing this stuff, it's stuff to keep in mind and think about. Beyond those items, you know, I don't know that there's a whole lot else that we did today worth talking about. So I guess I'm gonna go home. We got a good weekend ahead of us. Go and butcher some chickens tomorrow, and yeah, it'll be a busy weekend for me. But I hope you guys have as good a weekend as I'm gonna. Talk to you later. So here's another thing that I was wanting to mention to you. This is the accessory drive. It goes into your gear case right about here. On the front end, your fuel pump, it goes into that spline there. On the back end, your power steering pump goes in there. And so there's 2 roller bearings, one right there obviously. There's another one inside there in that aluminum housing. And I trust you can hear that. This bearing's not so bad, but that one, and you can feel it as you're spinning it. You can feel that that's feeling rough. You wouldn't really expect that roller bearings bathed in oil all the time would go out, but I've definitely caught them going out a number of times, and these don't feel smooth like they ought to. So I did order and receive bearings today. I gotta put them in still, but I would encourage, anytime anybody has one of these out of the engine, pay close attention to those bearings. They're easiest to catch when they're not failed, because when they fail, they will make noise and stuff, but it's not real obvious, and you'll have customers talking about noises that you're not sure if you're hearing what they're hearing. And so, you know, if you're being preventative and take care of it before it's a complaint, your life's better. Yeah. Anyway, keep that in mind too.